All right, I wanted to make a little introduction to Premiere Video. So when you're opening it up for the first time, there's just a few things that I want to teach you to help you get started. So what you'll be doing a lot is changing your workspaces a lot. You can always change workspaces up here like you always have in the other Adobe programs, but it's also up here now in the new version of Adobe Premiere. So right now, the first workspace that I would like you to use is called Production. So when you're starting your first project, go to Workspaces, click on Production, and then I want you to go over to the Production tab, click that, and put Close Panel so that you have just these four workspaces open. And then it's good to know how to save workspaces. That's already an exam objective you'll need to know. So go to Save as New Workspace. So there you go. You already know something on the certification test. So you can name it whatever you want and say, okay, I already had that one. And so this is the window that you'll use most often when you're working. I want to show you a little bit of an analogy on something that I learned on a course that I was taking on what these four windows do. So this is a little bit lame, but it will actually help you remember. It did help me remember. If you think of those windows as kind of like a pizza kitchen, so the bottom window on the left-hand side is your project window, and that's where your projects will start out. So if you were making a pizza, it would be like your pantry where you'd locate and collect all of your ingredients. So that's where you're going to import clips, view them, put them in folders, which are called bins in Adobe Premiere. You'll put your graphics, audio, everything that you need to make your project. You will have it inside this project window. That's where you'll import everything. And then we have the source monitor. That's the second place you go. So if you open up one of your clips and you want to edit it a little bit, like chop it up, you want to put an in point and an out point. That's kind of where you do that too. So if it were a pizza kitchen, it would be like your cutting board. That's where you're going to chop and prepare everything in that window. Then the next window you use is called the timeline. So that's kind of the third place you go when you're making your project. So if you were making a pizza, it would be like your counter where you assemble all the toppings on the dough. So that's where you're going to put all the audio tracks, the graphics, and the video clips. They all come together here in the timeline. Okay, and so the tracks are kind of like layers. And then the last window on the screen that you'll be using a lot is the program monitor. So that is, if you were making a pizza, it would be like the finished product coming out of the oven. All your stuff is put together and baked. It's ready to go. And that's where you see exactly how your final video is set to be published. Okay, so that might be a little silly analogy, but it really helped me when I was learning this to understand what each of those four spots does when you're building a project in Premiere. All right, so I already went over that folders were called bins. So if you hear that term used in some of the tutorials, that's what they're talking about, is folders. It's really important to be organized when you're making an Adobe Premiere project. And then in the timeline, you'll need to know that this little blue line right there, that's called the playhead or the current time indicator, CTI. It lets you know what time you have this, selected right there. And the act of moving through that time is called scrubbing. And I'm going to show you a little demo of those two things in just a minute. And so speaking of time, in your timeline, you'll see that this shows you the time that you have selected. So the first number here is hours. We'll never make anything that long in our class. We have minutes, seconds, and frames. So when you see this time right here, that's called 5 seconds and 15 frames. All right, let's go into Premiere real quick and let me show you a few more things and then we'll send you on your way to start making your own project. Okay, I want to show you some of the other workspaces that you might use a lot. Like let's say if you're importing some text and things like that, you would go over to graphics and it would show you a bunch of title screens. It takes a minute to load. It will show you a bunch of title screens and stuff like that. So you'll be switching back and forth on these workspaces a lot as you work. Then we have an audio one, so if you're like fine-tuning your audio track, you can go back and forth. But we're going to leave it on this one, this edited production for now. So like I said before, this is your current time indicator. It lets you know where you are in your video. And this moving this cursor, or not cursor, but it's like a cursor, playhead back and forth is called scrubbing. And let me show you, if you press minus, you can zoom out. If you press plus, you can zoom in. All right, so these are good things to know. Let's say you want to jump from one clip to a next one. You push your up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. So make sure you're in the right window. And notice how when I press the down arrow, it's moving in between each one of those clips. So if you're trying to edit in between them, use your up and down arrow keys. All right, and another quick key to know, or 3 keys to know, is J, K, and L. If I press J, it moves the clip backwards. You see how, let me move it over here so you can actually see that. When I press J, see it moves it backwards. And if I press K, it'll pause. If I press L, it moves it forward. If you press L really a couple of times and you hold it down, it starts to go faster and faster. So if you press L, you know, a bunch of times, then it moves faster and faster. And then you can press the space bar to stop things too. So J is backwards, K is pause, L is fast forward, and space bar is also pause. And the last quick key that I wanted to go over for now is called the tilde key. I've never heard of that before, but it's the little squiggly line that is to the left of your number 1 on your keyboard, or at least on my keyboard it is. So it should be in the top left of your keyboard, the little squiggly wavy line. What that does, it's very helpful when you're working in Premiere. If you press that, whatever window you have highlighted, so I have my timeline open, when I press it, it blows up that window to be full screen. So maybe if I'm working on some details, I can use the tilde key to blow it up. You can also, once you're in there, use your plus key to zoom in even more, and minus key to zoom out. You can also drag these clips to be bigger so that you have more detail showing. So tilde, that's a very helpful one. So whatever window you're in, you can click on it and make it full screen, and then you click on it again and it zooms back out.